So there's no rule book on how to be a successful football coach, and a lot of times I think we just get thrown into it and try to make it up as we go. But today, I'm going to give you the top 5 tips that I would give to anybody just starting their football coaching journey. Let's get into it. So my first tip is going to be to evaluate what you have. I think a lot of coaches jump in and they complain about the lack of players that they have, or the lack of number of coaches that they have, or the lack of the facilities that they have. Know that type of stuff before you go in. When you're interviewing for a job, ask those questions and find out whether you're going to have that support around you. Every coach should have an idea of what their enrollment is at the high school, middle school, and youth level, and how that number continues to progress as the kids get older. At the high school level, I think it's really important to know how many coaches are you going to have for the upcoming season. What's your strength and conditioning program going to look like in terms of the entirety of the season? Will you be able to strengthen condition during school, whether it's a Phi Ed class or something like that? What types of teaching aids and sleds and materials and stuff do you have? Is that something you're going to need to be able to get funding to ensure that you have enough of? This is to me a piece that constantly needs to be evaluated. Otherwise, you're just going to end up being that coach who ends up complaining about all of the things that they don't have. So the next step is going to be, how is your offense, defense, and special teams all going to work together? What are your core beliefs and the identity of what you want to have as a team? For instance, if you want to be up-tempo and spread the ball and tack down the field on offense, then understand that you're probably going to score more quickly, assuming you're effective at those things, and your defense is going to spend more time on the field. Do you need to allocate better players to that side of the ball in order to do that? Maybe you want to be a little bit more ground and pound time and possession type team, in which case you plan on having the ball more of the time on offense, so your defense doesn't necessarily need to be allocated with all of the best players that you have on the team. You hear every coach talk about how important special teams is, but what is your identity going to be on special teams? Do you want to be a consistent special team that doesn't turn the ball over, gets off clean punts, and kicks the ball when necessary? Or do you want to be more aggressive? Are you going to incorporate fake punts and surprise onside kicks? And does that fit into what you want to do on offense and defense? My third tip is going to be, make sure that your strength and conditioning program perfectly fits those characteristics that we talked about in the second part. This is going to be the far majority of the time that these players spend on getting ready for their football season. Does your strength and conditioning philosophy coincide with those beliefs on offense and defense? It wouldn't make any sense if you're deciding to be a heavy power run team who's going to have extra linemen, fullbacks, and tight ends, but you're going to train your players only focused on speed. Then you're not going to have that power and strength to be able to do that. It's important to make sure that those special teams philosophies and those team philosophies coincide, so that way you're not wasting your time or the players' time. Speaking about strength and conditioning, I think that coincides with my fourth aspect, which is going to be how you prepare your off season. Are you going to be a team that works out 3 times a week, 4 times a week? Are you going to be a team that works with their leadership council monthly or bi-monthly? Or are you not even going to have a leadership council? These are things to think about because, again, the off season is going to take place and it's going to be the majority of your year. I think you're doing yourself a major disservice if you're not allocating that time out properly and planning for that, because again, that is the bulk of the high school experience that these kids are going to have. How are you going to keep their interest in football without reaching them to get to a burnout type period? I think that's one of the biggest questions right now in the 21st century, that perspective of keeping kids motivated for a period of time, but not wearing on them so hard that they end up getting burned out, whether it's physically or worse, mentally. This is also, to me, where the time management component comes into play, because how are you going to make sure that they're getting everything done that they need to in terms of their fall season, but they're also being involved in other sports? And you need to understand that if kids are in school, they're also going to have things that they enjoy, time with friends, video games, whatever their other activities are. I do believe it is possible to create a sense of balance where you're still able to train and be in tip-top position for your different sports while also doing the things that you want to enjoy. Because after all, these kids are in school and they're going to only get one opportunity to be able to do this once. Wouldn't you want them to be able to enjoy their time while they're there? On the coaching side, you owe it to yourself to create a strong structure of time management because you need to have time away from the game as well. Whether it's time with your family, whether it's time with your kids, it's important to take advantage of those times, and the way you do that is by preparing up front. Now, only in tip 5 are we going to get to the in-season part. And I think the biggest thing to remember about that too is 85% of the time that you spend with the kids in season is going to be on the practice field. So you have to do the best job that you can to ensure that your practices are as efficient and strong as possible. I think it's important to have your scripts and schedules and plans all figured out during the summer or the spring, because that way you're forced to sit there and hold yourself accountable for the time that you have. You as the coach owe it to the players to take advantage and make their experience as great as possible throughout their time in school. After all, the kids only get 4 years in high school and one chance to play high school football. You could sit there and coach for 20 years. The pressure is on you to make sure that you're doing the best you possibly can every given year. We talked about this a little bit in the off-season section, but keeping practice fun. How do you keep kids engaged? The main focus should probably be on the guys who are less talented, the guys who are just out there to be a part of the team or to have an enjoyable high school experience, because that's going to be the vast majority of the players that you're going to have. Not everyone is going to go on and play college football or be a great high school athlete. So what can you do to make sure that the rest of those guys and the entirety, the 80% of your team, is having an enjoyable experience that they would recommend to somebody else? And finally, from the coaching perspective, you owe it to yourself to ensure that you can get everything done, so that way when you go home and spend time with your family and spend time with your kids and spend time with your dog, you're giving them the attention that they deserve, and not sitting in the office worried about the relationship that you're going to have at home. There is room in the sport of football to hustle and put in great effort while also creating balance to have relationships that are sustainable. If you found value in this video, make sure to hop down into the description, look in the Google Drive. That's where I'm going to store all of my spreadsheets and documents in order to help you be a better coach. Good luck.